on my way to work for the day. I have night shift this week, and it's cool. I'm a tank instructor. I get to teach the trainees how to drive in the dark and maneuver a tank. It's cool. Not a lot of people can say that they had the privilege to do that, so I like it. I was watching the sermon today before work, and Pastor Keon Henderson, I watch him a lot. He said that God picked you, right? It was personal, right? It's a lot of us feel like I found God. No. Before the foundations of the earth, right? Before I was formed in my mother's womb, right? Before Abraham was, I am, right? Everything concerning me has already been read in the book. God picked me out of everybody, and He picked you too, right? We supposed to take it personally, right? Because God did pick us. We say it a lot. We gloss over it, you know. God showed us love for us, corporately, plural, you know, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us, and He did, but He died for you specifically, right? Had you been the only one. The reason why the statement stuck with me is because, you know, and that I have this uniform on really brings it home. I'm not the typical leader, right? Obviously, right? I'm a staff sergeant in the Army, and I'm not the typical leader. I'm not the cookie cutter, if you will. I know from where my help comes, and I'm bound and determined to abide by the principles that I believe in, you know, regardless of what uniform I have on. And a lot of times the way that I operate bodes well for those in charge of me. However, it doesn't seem to translate on the other end, right? Like when it's time for evaluations or awards or whatever it may be. And in this vein, I'm specifically talking about promotions. All of this is going somewhere. It's all related, right? Because we're talking about He picked me, right? So a lot of my leaders don't go, right? And I'm not talking about handouts, right? I'm not talking about that. But when the time comes for promotion, right, is the vein that I'm in, I get looked over, and I see my peers, as far as rank is concerned, like I see my peers to my left and to my right, you know, that I know, that I've worked with, right, that I know and I've seen how they operate and so forth and so on. And, you know, these are the ones getting promoted. Like, these are the people that it's thought best for them to lead, right? And great. I know that sounds like a hater comment, right? And I know I lost a lot of y'all right there, and that's totally fine. However, those who know me know that I'm not a hater, and I love when good things happen to good people. My thing is, just because Staff Sergeant A is extremely qualified doesn't mean that Staff Sergeant B can't be as well. Does that make sense? It's almost as if Staff Sergeant A getting promoted to Sergeant First Class somehow lets Staff Sergeant B know that he or she is less than, and that's not the case. It's not. The world is really big on this competition thing. I come to this thing understanding and realizing that we're all starting from the same spot, right? We're all starting from the same place. We're all equally messed up, right? Right there, I lost some of you, because some of you think, hey, you know, I'm better than so-and-so. But based on what I believe, right, is that, you know, we all fall short, right? We all didn't make it, right? Like, we are all equally messed up, right? So that being the case, it's difficult sometimes for me to understand why it is, and this has been a career thing. Like, even on my journey to staff sergeant, like, it's just, man, look, some things happened while I was stationed in Germany that I can go into, but I won't. I've told that story a lot of times. I say I've been using it for reference. However, it's noticeable that when I go back into the details, it's like I'm reliving it like it's fresh. And people have moved on and, you know, done bigger and better things, myself included, since all of that happened. But just that it happened, like, while it was going on, I couldn't wrap my mind around it, right? Like, what is it about me that I'm chosen last, or not chosen at all, or you know, I'm chosen just to, you know, just because of some technicality or whatever it is. Like, what is it about me that I'm not earning, right, certain accolades and positions? But then I remember that promotion doesn't come from the north or the south or the east or the west. It comes from above, period. And God lifts one up and he puts another one down, and that's just how it is. And God does things in the fullness of time. Pastor Henderson kept saying that in the sermon as well. In the fullness of time, things happen, whether we like it or not, right? And we have to deal until then. And if I never attain the next rank, right, in the military uniform, it makes me no less valuable to God. However, if I attain the next rank, it makes me no more valuable to God. Like, my value has been determined, signed, sealed, set in eternity, regardless of what my non-commissioned officer's evaluation report says about me or my performance. My value has been set, right? And that's real easy for me to say in the clarity of the moment, you know, but I definitely understand when people are in a position and it's like, this person? Okay. And it just doesn't make any sense. And then even personally for me, right? I grew up on the heels of my cousin and my brother, right? And, you know, little boys like little girls and so forth and so on. Well, you can't tell me that I'm less than now and I'm gonna walk in that. But it was definitely a learned behavior because I grew up, right, not getting the attention, right, from females first. It was always an afterthought. I was always an afterthought. And somewhere along the line, this issue of being chosen was seated within my soul somewhere. And until recently, real recent, like 2023, 2024, 25, right, I just didn't, I hadn't yet come to understand that I choose me as well, right? In addition to the truth that God has already chosen me, I was picked. I was picked, handpicked, right? And everything that I've come up against, I've been handpicked. I'm built for this, right? Everything that I'm going through, to watching people get promoted before me and past me and not being chosen by, not being chosen to be in relationships, but friendships, right? Not being chosen. I'm always the one calling more than I'm called, or I'm always available more than the people that I'm in a relationship with. That's an inner thing, and that's something that I have to work out. But I have to do it. I have to do it knowing, right, that I've already been chosen. Just understanding, right, that I'm already chosen, right? Whose standards am I basing whether or not I'm chosen off of, right? These are things that I have to think about, and these are things that I think about on a regular basis, because if I don't even consider the place from where I'm getting these ideas and these paradigms, then it can't ever be corrected, right? If I'm in denial about the fact that it even exists, then it can never be corrected, right? So I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for the word. You know, I realize that we have a chance to hear the word every single day, uninhibited for now, right? Uninhibited. And I'm thankful. And then in response to press start here, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, in the universe, Jeremy Lamont Gaston, he responded to me with a testimony of his own, which really just confirmed a lot of the things that I said in the previous post, right? And I love God. If God didn't say another thing to me for the rest of the time that I draw breath, I'd love him anyway. But I love the fact that I ask God questions, I converse with God, and God answers me, right? It may sound like Jeremy, but God answers me, right? Specifically, right? Even with his testimony, right? The specifics of his testimony, within the specifics of his testimony, were specifics about the questions that I have for God and specific answers, right? I'm grateful, right? I'm grateful. And can't nobody tell me, right, that my God doesn't exist, right? And I'm not just talking about what he does for me, because I love him more than what he does for me, right? Like I said, if he doesn't do anything else for me, I'm still gonna give him the glory, right? I'm still gonna love him, right? He's done it all. I'm not even gonna say he's done enough. He's done it all. As it relates to me, as I said before, everything about my life was already written in the book before the foundations of the world. So, but I am grateful for the relationships that I do have. I've, done the whole pity party about I don't have a lot of friends, and I heard I once heard someone say that someone said to them that when there are a lot of people in your circle, it's not because you're popular, it's because you're careless. And that hit home. And that's the dichotomy of wanting to be chosen, right? But being wary not to have a circle so big, right, that it makes you careless. For me personally, that I was picked. I've been picked, regardless of how many promotions I get passed up for, regardless of how many callbacks I get from friends or people that I'd like to be in relationship with. I've already been picked, right? I'm not fighting from a place of pick me. It's not even a fight to be fought, right? I'm not asking from a place of pick me. That's not it, right? And I have to understand that that's for me, right? And if I don't watch that sermon and listen to Pastor Henderson say that, it doesn't resonate with me, and I go on continuously bothered by the fact that I get overlooked a lot, right? However, in the fullness of time, God has a way of making it to where you can't help but be seen, even when you're not trying to. Just like Jesus, hey, I'm gonna bless you and ask you not to tell anyone because it's not my time yet. And in the fullness of time, goodness is put on display, whether we want it to be or not. So be encouraged, right? I'm on my way to work, making this video, and I really hope it blesses some people. Be encouraged, right? Stay encouraged, be grateful, stay faithful, because you were picked. And you being picked, it has nothing to do with the way that you feel about it. It has nothing to do with the way that you feel. It's a fact. It is. It just is. Right? You were picked. And when you know that you were picked, you know that you matter, and you know that you have value. You remember when you'd be playing a game on the playground, a game of football, a game of basketball, a game of tag, hide and seek, and y'all picked teams. There was always the one kid who was the last person to get picked, right? For whatever reason. So the teams could be even, whatever, and the kid might not even participated once he was picked, once she was picked. They were always last to get picked. And that started something in their mind, right? Good, bad, ugly, and different. As an adult looking back on those times now, I realized that I was picked regardless of whether or not I was picked, right? I've been picked. I've been picked. That's something for me to camp on. That's something for me to eat on. Moving forward, moving into the things that God has for me, that are coming up and that are about to manifest. These are things that I need to know. I've been picked regardless of how it looks. I've been picked regardless of how it feels, right? And I've been picked regardless of what anyone has to say about it. Favor ain't fair. And it goes both ways, right? But I love favor for others, right? Just as much, if not more, than I love favor for myself. Doesn't mean I don't want favor, right? I just would that we all have favor, right? And we all find rest in the truth that we were picked individually. Yes, we were picked corporately, but individually and specifically, right? We were picked to know God. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful, right? I look back over my career, and at every duty station I've been stationed, there's always a chaplain. Always a chaplain that I'm really, really close with, starting with Chaplain Shan, Light Shan, Chaplain Jody Harlow, Chaplain Chaplain Coachelle in Germany, right? Just Chaplain Frazier, Jason Frazier from Fort Bliss. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for these connections. And God always has a way of keeping people in my path to let me know, like, no, you're on the right path, right? Keep going, right? I'm so grateful for that. And I was picked for that. And that's big. And that's just the truth of it all, right? Free game.